everybody. Think Outside the Blue Box podcast. I'm Anthony Rivera. I'm the lead videographer and editor here at BlueBox Digital. And welcome to the podcast this week. This week it's just me. I don't have any guests this week, but hopefully I can provide some value here. If you haven't seen any of the previous episodes, they're great episodes. I had some great guests on. We had some great conversations. So if you're watching on YouTube, at the end of this podcast, there's going to be a link to the playlist where you can binge watch all of the episodes. And on the Apple Podcast, Spotify Podcast, or anywhere that you can subscribe to podcast, we're there. And soon we're going to be releasing a video podcast on there as well. So the aggregator, the company that I use to publish my podcast, Anchor, which is owned by Spotify, they just started doing video distribution. So I'm going to try to kind of convert some of the older episodes from audio only to video, and then all future episodes, obviously, they're going to be both. They're going to be audio and video on all the platforms. So if you're not currently following, go ahead and head over to Spotify. If you're listening to this on Spotify, or if you're listening to this on Apple Podcast app, please take a moment to rate it. Please take some time to leave a review, leave some comments. Any kind of engagement with this podcast is greatly appreciated. We're trying to get this to as many creatives as possible, and to get some creatives in here talking about their journeys. So if you guys know anybody that would be interested in being on the podcast, sitting here with me, kind of talking about their journey and what they had to go through to get to where they are today, feel free to reach out. It's info@blueboxdigital.com if you want to email us. We're on Instagram and Facebook at BlueBoxDigital1 with the number 1 at the end. Or on TikTok. We actually started releasing some of the animated shorts on there, and they're doing pretty well. So if you want to head over there and take a look at those, I'm going to be putting a lot more of those coming up. Time permitting, obviously. Head over to TikTok, and we're actually at BlueBox Digital there without the number 1. I'm trying to get everything migrated over to the BlueBox Digital without the 1, but there's a company kind of squatting on that, on those usernames on the other platforms. So even on Twitter, I'm on Twitter at BlueBoxDigital1. And yeah, again, on this podcast we talk about the creative journeys that people have gone through. Why are they where they are today? On the last podcast, we actually had Joshua Leduc. I actually misspoke on that podcast. I named him Perez. He started his creative journey in film, and he went to film school. He had all the equipment. He had he was doing it. He even got a movie credit. He worked on two films, one Django Unchained and Ender's Game. He was a production assistant, but he still got movie credits. So he was actually on set. So he was actually around that kind of environment for a while. But he after he was in it, he realized that wasn't his calling, as he had thought when he was younger. The film industry is something that's very enticing. We put these celebrities and anybody in Hollywood, basically, we put them on this pedestal to the point where it's like glorifying them in a way. And when you're little, you're very impressionable, and when you see celebrities getting millions of views and thousands of likes on Instagram, that to them is success. And when you're in the industry, when you're actually doing it, and when you realize how much work actually goes into making these things, and some people aren't cut out for it. You have to love it to the point where you're willing to do it for free. One of my favorite quotes is, do something you love to do so much, you would gladly do it for free. Then learn to do it so well, people would gladly pay you for it. And that kind of stuck with me because, it makes you think about some of the stuff that people are getting into nowadays, and they're doing it because of the money, because of the fame, because of, they want this certain status. And they don't really realize that it takes a lot of work. It's a lot more than a full-time job. and Josh kind of pointed this out in the previous episode, where you would rather have an easier life by getting the salary, but then you're giving up a little bit of your freedom. So it's kind of like there's benefits to both. But if you think that you're going to quit your job and work less hours, that's not the case. I can tell you that from experience. I actually work significantly more than when I had a full-time job. But it's so satisfying to me. It's so gratifying that I would gladly do it for free, and I have. And, in the beginning of my journey, I actually did do a lot of free music videos and free commercials. And at that point, I had the skill set, I had the equipment, I just needed to find clients. And when you don't really have a portfolio, it's kind of hard because, people want to see the quality of your work. They want to see what they're getting themselves into. And it's understandable. You're going to spend this amount of money on this project. You want to make sure that it's going to be good quality. But at the same time, somebody starting out in the industry, they don't have any experience. They don't have any portfolio unless you've gone to school and you've worked on a couple of school projects. But even those are not, they're usually not portfolio material. So the way that I kind of looked at the industry and everybody's requiring experience, but there's no way to get experience if nobody hires you. So I decided to carve my own way. So I just decided to just kind of go my own way. And the way the only way that I could figure out how to get experience as a newbie was to just, reach out to people, say, let's say, for example, I was at a wedding the other day and I met Sebastian Gabriel and Seba Gabo on Instagram, but he's a violin player, and he was playing the violin along to some hip hop, and it sounded really, really good. And I kind of reached out to him. I walked up to him after the wedding. I kind of handed him my business card and say, look, bro, you have talent, right? So I want to make you a music video, no charge, and that's a way to get experience, because you're working with another no-name, I say no-name, but he has more followers than I do. You're working with somebody who's not out there yet, and they're willing to kind of say yes to an offer like that. And because I know that if I go to Travis Scott and say, hey bro, I'm trying to get started here, let me shoot one of your music videos, obviously that's going to be a no. But if you reach out to just local artists, just go talk to people. If you see somebody performing out in the streets, just go and say, hey, look, I'm a videographer and I'm willing to do this for free to benefit both of us, because it does. It gets their name out there. Plus, it gives you portfolio material that you can then turn around and get new clients. So those first few projects that you work on, that you have to go above and beyond. Even though you're doing it for free, you have to stand out. So you kind of have to just go balls to the wall, just dive right into the project and don't stop until it's the quality that you want, because this is going to be the first piece of your portfolio. So you want people to be excited by it. And for me, we're going to transition now to a little bit of my personal journey. For me, the thing that kind of, well, let's just start from the beginning, because you guys need a little bit of context. So from a very, very young age, I've always been into movies, and it's always been a consumption thing. It's you get into these stories, and the fact that these moving pictures can incite emotions. They can make you laugh. They can make you cry. They can make you think. They can open your mind to new ideas. That was powerful to me. And, when I went to see a movie and I cried for the first time, it was like, what is happening? These are not real people. They're just a character. They're just an actor playing a character, but they're told in a way that it incites emotion. And I think that's the power of video, is the fact that you can immerse someone and make them empathetic to something that in normal life they would not be empathetic to. For example, somebody with light skin color going to see 12 Years Slave, that kind of opened my eyes a little bit into what actually happened, and some of the things that the African American community has had to deal with and has had to grow up dealing with. That I mean, you know, for somebody that's not an African American, it's kind of hard to relate, and that's why with the Black Lives Matter movement, it kind of opened up my eyes as well too, because I do have white privilege, even though, you know, I might some people might say, oh no, that's not a thing, or they might deny it. No, I do 100%, because of the color of my skin. People do treat me different, and I have experienced that. So that's why I think that video and film and you know, this medium is so important, because it allows you to enter someone else's mind, someone else's life, and empathize with them. You know, it's like, I'm not a female, so I don't know what female struggles are like. So when I watch a movie about a female getting empowered and you know, it just blowing everybody out of the water and just overcoming all of these obstacles that I didn't even know were there for them. So, you know, it's a way, it's a medium that's like no other. Sometimes it provides escapism, because you know, your regular life isn't really not as exciting as some people might tend to think. So when they go out and watch these movies, you know, you're because of your empathy, you're experiencing this adventure with the character. It's almost like you're physically there as well, because empathy is so powerful that it'll allow you to feel what it's like to be that character without actually being the character. And that, you know, that to me was very impactful, especially at a young age, because when you're that impressionable and you grow up very sheltered like I did, you know, it opens up some new perspectives too, and it opens up to new cultures, and that's why I think it's important for Hollywood to be a lot more inclusive, because if all the movies are being made by white people, then, you know, there's not going to be a lot of representation for some of the minorities that the white and Caucasian people just can't relate. They just don't understand. They haven't had those experiences, so they can't relate to that other culture or the you know, what they're trying to portray. And that's inclusiveness is a huge part, and that I think that's that needs to change in Hollywood. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So at a very young age, you know, I fell in love with movies, and I watched them all the time. I grew up in a family that wasn't, I mean, we weren't poor, but we weren't super rich either. So we you know, we didn't have a lot of money to go places, and I found escapism in movies. You know, it was a time for me to inhabit someone else's life or inhabit someone else's environment, even if it's only for an hour or two, because the story is what drives it. The story is what pulls you in, and if it's told right, then, you know, you've done your job well. So the movie that really kind of sparked my love for filmmaking was actually in the late 90s when Steven Spielberg released the Jurassic Park movie. And that to me was a form of escapism that I had never experienced before. You know, that the dinosaurs looked so real, I mean, at the time, and they still do. That movie kind of holds up quite a bit. The special effects, the music, the camera angles, like everything. That movie to me is a masterpiece, and that kind of sparked in me the love of filmmaking, because it was, that story was told so perfectly, in my opinion. At the time, I was, you know, less than a teenager at the time, but that movie was told so well that, you know, it kind of clicked in my head, saying, you know what, all these stories that I've been absorbing over the years, I think it's time for me to tell a story. And, you know, that's when I kind of started experimenting with story. So for me, when I watched that movie, it was like you were literally entering this island. That's when I knew that I wanted to go into filmmaking. But the problem that I ran into is that, obviously, if you want to make film, you have to have a a camera, you have to have lights, you have to have all this equipment, and it's pretty expensive. And for me, a middle class kid growing up and you know, with not a lot of money, that was a problem. And the iPhones weren't around at the time, so I couldn't just pull out my phone and just make a film like I can now. The technology just wasn't there, and you know, I started getting into like behind the scenes and little documentaries about how movies were made, and I loved the process. I love the fact that, you know, you have to set everything up. It takes days to set up sometimes, especially if it's a big set. It takes hours just to get the camera and the focus and everything right. And as soon as you yell action, it might take 10 seconds, and then you cut, and that's it. And then you move on. You take another couple days to move the camera somewhere else. And it's just, I don't know, the very slow, high-effort art, that to me was very enticing, because I know there's ways to make cheap movies. You know, you can get a camcorder at Walmart and just go out and just shoot something. But to me, that it loses it. You know, it loses the immersive experience, because now you're looking at something that, and you know what, I've noticed that if a movie isn't shot right, or if it's shot in the wrong frame rate, or if it's, you know, if the lighting is wrong, or if there's anything off, then it'll kind of pull the attention of the audience to that, and they'll kind of lose focus of what's going on. So it is an art form. I think filmmaking is an art form, and it's a craft that you have to develop over time. For me, the development of this skill started with animation, because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to get all this equipment and you know, make multi-million-dollar budget films, but I knew that I had the patience to sit down and draw on a flip book. You know, my dad used to work at a printing company that made notebooks, and you know, they kind of they had the machines where they would just put in all these sheets of paper with the cardboard, and then it would cut out little notepads. And my dad used to bring those home from the print shop and just give them to me, because I used to love making flip books. You know, that's how I started. Is anytime that I was bored in the car and like a long road trip or something, I just pulled out my little flip book, and you know, it's just off the top of my head. I just thought of like a little short story, and I just kind of jotted it down, even if it's a bouncing ball and it hits a dog, or you know, it's the stupidest thing, but it's a story. You're telling a story, and that's how it started for me. The love of motion, the love of the persistence of vision, which is what happened, the phenomenon that happens in our eyes when we watch anything on a screen. Because if you slow down, and I'll get a clip and put it in here, but when you slow down, like if you point your camera at any of these screens, and like your phone screen or your iPad screen or something, or your TV, and you record that in slow motion, and then you slow it down, you'll see that you're not actually looking at moving pictures. You're literally seeing a sequence of images being played so fast that the persistence of vision in your eye holds that last image in your mind's eye until the new picture comes in. So then it kind of blends it in together. It's because our eyes are not perfect that this illusion works. If our eyes were as good as an eagle's eye, for example, then the persistence of vision is you know, the refresh rate, if you will, is a lot higher. So it doesn't work. You know, it doesn't work. It just looks like a bunch of flickering images, and they don't get the motion that you and I do. And that's where it started for me. That the flip books is what kind of clicked for me. As soon as I started flipping that book, there was movement. You know, the little character or the little ball was bouncing, or whatever was happening there was happening. And that was so fascinating for me, and I love doing that. So I kind of kept doing that. You know, that was a lot of hard work, because some of the drawings got a little bit more and more complex. So then I started to draw comic strips and telling stories that way. When I got my first computer, it was a Tandy, like an old Radio Shack Tandy computer. It was brand new at the time. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad, for making that sacrifice and buying me my first computer, because I believe that was a huge catalyst in my life. That was back in the 80s, late 80s. So the computers weren't really the personal computer wasn't really a thing back then, like it is now. Like every room has a computer now, but back then, you bought a computer and that became the family computer. It was in a common area, and everybody kind of took turns on it. Because obviously you couldn't afford to buy more than one because they were so pricey at the time. Even for people, even for wealthy people, they always talked about how expensive these PCs were, personal computers. But anyway, that threw a whole nother wrench in my creative journey, because now I was able to make the drawings digital, and I can do them a lot faster. I can do them. The technology makes everything easier, so it was a lot easier. It was a lot faster. I was even able to add sounds, music, maybe a little bit of voiceover, and I started making my own animations, and at the time the animation tools weren't really up to par for computer animation. I was ahead of my time in that respect. I kept just finding different ways to make things move, to tell a story, make moving pictures. And once I got the computer, I started finding different ways of doing that. And the easiest way that I found is actually to learn a coding language, which at the time was called BASIC. I don't know if you guys remember that. And then came Quick Basic. Quick Basic was really easy too. But I started actually coding the animations, where it wasn't just a simple animation. Now I can do some complex things and change colors and so I found a lot of value in that. At the time my mom was going to college. She was actually getting her second degree, which was in computer science, and I used to just steal her books. She used to just have tons and tons of homework, so it was like stacks of different books, and the one that I picked up was BASIC. And I kind of just read right through it. I taught myself how to do it, and then I started making little apps, like a cash register app, and just to kind of get to know the language, but then it started getting to the point where I was making games and some of the interactive things where you get to choose the outcome, and then depending on your choice, it pulls up a different image. And anyway. That was a huge catalyst for me, and that made it so easily and accessible that I literally spent every waking moment on that computer making animations, making games, making just anything, creating. Then obviously as things happen, you grow up and you forget about certain things, and some other things kind of pull you away from that. And for me, it was because I had read the BASIC book, and I had taught myself how to program, that I decided that, I'm programming, I'm making little apps. Why don't I just keep learning different languages and maybe just go into the computer industry? Because at the time I loved the fact that I had a computer and that I can, open it and see all the chips and what everything did. And it was so fascinating to me. And it was at the time where personal computers were just starting to be a thing. So everybody was getting one. And so it was a lot of like social too. Now people have consoles that they have in the living room where they invite their friends over to play. And back then it was the computer. Everybody came over if you had a computer, and because not everybody did. So if you had a computer, everybody came over to your house. You guys used to play games on it and stuff like that. So I kind of kept pursuing my computer career in that sense. I kind of gave up on the art, only because, at the time, being an artist wasn't really very lucrative. So I was starting to get to the age where, I needed to find something that I could do for a living, and something that I can get a job for. At the time it was like, go to college, get a job, raise a family, all that cookie cutter stuff. So I needed to find this career. I needed to find this thing that I would do for the rest of my life. And at the time, I had already learned BASIC and Quick Basic on my own. Like, I had taught myself. I just picked up a book and learned it. So to me, it was so easy. It was second nature. So that's what I decided to do. So once I graduated high school, I went straight to college, and I got a degree in computer networking, computer network administration. And it's funny because I've never told anybody this story, but I think my mom knows. When I went to register for school, they had multiple options, and I had gone there specifically for the computer networking. I had already done my research on it. I was ready to do the computer network administration. Then when I arrive at the school, I see the list of courses and the list of the curriculum, and there was an art degree, and that was like a fork in the road for me. Like I even thought about changing my major before I even registered to art, because I knew that was something that I was always passionate about. But the reasoning kicked in, and I made the safe choice, and I went in for a computer network administration, and I actually got my associate's degree in that a few years later. But there was always that creative side of me. There was always that, I wanted to create. I wanted to make something. I wanted to, tell stories. Because, I still, throughout all this, I was still into movies. Obviously, I'm a huge movie buff. And video games. Obviously, the video games with technology got better and better. So the stories that they could tell were so much more elaborate. And I think it's even carved its own niche in storytelling, because it's an interactive way of storytelling. So it's a little bit different than watching a movie. Although the same skill set applies to both, because there's a lot of cinematic elements in games nowadays, and the way to tell story has been developed in the movie industry so well, to the point where, they even have templates that you can follow for certain genres, and it's like the way that we've gotten better at storytelling is very impressive. We've basically mastered the craft of storytelling, and even now businesses are appreciating the power of a good story. It's no longer, you walk in, there's now it's a story. Like the company has to, they have to create a story around their brand. Like, how are they helping you? Just make it easy for me to understand. I don't care that you're called mom and pop's plumbing business. Tell me a story about how your company can make my life easier. So in that sense, stories everywhere. It's just an easy way to convey something to someone else that they can immediately empathize with, because of the way that you've told it. So throughout my college career, I was still a big movie buff. All my friends were always at the movies. They're huge collectors, and they were really, really deep into the the filmmaking creation process. I remember me and my friend Brian used to watch behind the scenes documentaries all the time. Anytime there was like an extended DVD, a DVD with the extra footage or something, we would always go out and get it, because we always wanted that extra, like, behind the scenes kind of thing. So I've always been into the story, telling stories, receiving stories, sharing stories. So that that was always in the back of my mind. And after doing IT for a long time, I felt stuck. I felt like I had reached the height of that path. I had reached the end of that path, and I needed to now go back and, realize that it's not what I was really passionate about. It's just something I did because it was safe. It was something that I did because it was a career. It's something that, technology was growing at such a rate that IT just seemed like the best option, because you have to keep up with technology, and it's an ever-changing industry, and they're always going to need people to fix computers. Until they don't. But, I always had that creative side, and I started working for a medical laboratory as an IT person. And don't get me wrong, I love the job. I work with great people. So they knew I had the creative itch, and they always had me work on creative projects. Like I remember there was one time where we had to make a poster for the department, and the best poster would win a competition and we would win some sort of money or something, and they had me come up with a design. And I kind of thought about it, and the what I ended up doing is at the time there was a Simpsons characterizer online where you can just upload a picture of yourself. It'll scan it with AI, and it'll create a Simpsons character for you. I think it was part of like a Burger King promotion back then. But I remember I had done it for myself and my girlfriend at the time, and just for fun, just created some Simpsons characters that look like us. And what I ended up doing is I did that for the whole department. And then I created a sort of like a grid, a poster of everyone as a Simpsons character with their actual names underneath it. And it was just a fun way of, just bringing my creativity into the IT world where it's very, very little creativity. And I was always doing little things like that. It was the buzz of the department because I was the only creative one there. And then I started. That's when I decided that I was going to go back to school and I was going to get a degree and something that I love, because now I didn't have my parents helping me pay for it, so there was not that pressure that I got to do something that would make them proud and grateful that they spent all this money on something that I'm actually using. But now I was an adult, I had kids and I was married, and there was always that creative juice that I needed I knew there was that creative itch that I knew that I needed to pursue. And that's when I started to research schools in my area that would do film, that would do animation, sound production. I even looked at sound engineering and just any creative outlet that would just let me create. And I finally ended up on animation. I actually went to school and got a bachelor's degree in computer animation. And there, it was great. I was in heaven every single day. I was creating animations and moving images, and I was learning the process. And surprisingly, there's a lot of concepts that film and animation both share. So I was actually able to learn filmmaking from that without actually going to film school, because film school was significantly more expensive. And then there was that thing of, I still have to buy all the equipment, which is what stopped me before. So that's when I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go into animation. It's just easy to do. I could just buy a laptop and just do it at home. I can record my own voiceovers. I could do my own Foley. I can, if I need to change a light, all I got to do is drag something on the screen. I don't have to physically get up and move a light. So to me, in my head, I was like, I can make films. And now with technology growing exponentially, I'm able to create these films that will tell the story the way that I want it to be told. And I would have complete control over the process, because in CG, you actually control everything. It's not like you can just show up at an environment and you can't control the lighting, or you can't control, the color of that wall. You can't just paint a wall. Whereas in CG, you can. You just go in there, change the shader, and there you go. It's a different material now. So for me, it was just an easy way of making quick films and, just creating, just getting into the process, and at the same time learning film concepts, because the filming is the same on both. The cameras in Maya have the aperture, and they have the focal length settings, so you can actually deal with all of that as if you were moving a physical camera. So anyway, I got a bachelor's degree in computer animation, and as all animators can tell you, the industry is rough. It's very rough for animators. So I started to think, maybe if I niche, maybe if I just study just one piece of it really, really well, then I can do that, and then get my name out there, and I can be part of a huge team, and just get into industry that way. So I decided I was going to go into VFX. So I started rotoscoping and green screening, chroma keying. I even started simulation in Maya. Like fire and liquid simulations and things like that. And I mean, I was doing great. I was doing fantastic work, and I was even part of some school projects Pretty much the only thing that I did was simulation. I remember on one I was in charge of just doing the cloth on the characters, and I love that. I love the fact that I can create something that will push animation more towards reality, like the real looking cloth and real looking hair and things like that. That always enticed me. But what I found out is that once I actually started applying for these jobs, they're very scarce. They're very scarce in the sense that there's not a lot of VFX artists working in big production companies. They usually outsource that kind of thing. And the VFX houses out there, they're not that many. So, it was kind of like back to square one. I mean, I kept going on interviews and they kept testing my skills, and I was crushing it, and there was, I guess, someone always better than me. So they never hired me. So then it was like back to square one, and I kind of tried different things here and there. I started a couple businesses, and they all failed because I don't know, it just wasn't something that I was super passionate about, or it just didn't hit the right thing, or it wasn't in the budget. So then that was around the time that the iPhone was just starting to be a thing. So I had just graduated from college. I had this bachelor's degree. I kept getting failed interview after another. And then I've always been a techie. So when the iPhone came out, it was a no-brainer for me. It was the newest thing, so I had to have it. So I bought it. And then, I realized that it had a camera built into it, and I was able to shoot video. I mean, not very good video at the time, but I mean, for me to practice, it was perfect. So, I started shooting videos and just kind of, for fun, just editing my little videos, little skits that I would do and little things, to just kind of practice and just get to know the camera and it was all a learning experience. But then the iPhone kept getting better and better and better. And I started getting really inspired by these vloggers on YouTube. And that's around the time that YouTube came out. And people were just creating videos with their phones, and they were just putting it on there. And it was fascinating because it wasn't a story that anyone else could tell. It was their story. And you were literally watching them tell you their story. And that was so fascinating for me. Like here I am, I'm holding an iPhone. I have a camera in my pocket. They're doing this. Why can't I do it? I have the skill set. I know how to make film. I know what angles work, what angles don't work. The lighting, the sound, that was always a passion of mine. So here I was with a device that could assist me in all of those things. So that's when I decided that I would start vlogging. Needless to say, my first couple vlogs were not something that I was willing to put out to the world. So those will never be seen. I don't even know if I have copies of those anymore. It was just creation. It was the journey. It was the process to get there. And everything just started to click. Everything just started like, you know what? Okay, no, that didn't work. Let's try it this way. And it got to the point where, I was pretty comfortable making decent videos. I decided to, you know what? I'm gonna vlog. I'm just gonna vlog, and just that will get me to just create videos and practice and just get to know my equipment, and it'll get me editing fast, because at the time vloggers were almost on a daily basis. So it was like I was trying to keep up with them. So I had to hurry up and pump these out. So I started researching what's the fastest way to edit video, and everybody kept saying Final Cut, Final Cut, Final Cut, Final Cut. So I ended up, I picked up an iMac and bought Final Cut, and sure enough, I mean, that's for the type of videos that I make that just need fast editing. I need to pump this out in like less than 3 hours. There's no beating Final Cut. I know there's some people yelling right now saying Premiere, and I do. I love Premiere. And if I had a choice, I would totally edit in Premiere because I believe it is a much better tool, but it doesn't beat Final Cut in render times, and especially now with the Apple Silicon, there's just no way. But anyways, I got an iMac, I got a Final Cut, and I started cutting my own little videos, and that's when I decided, because at the time one of my favorite vloggers was a travel vlogger. His name is Peter. Oh God, what's his name? Peter something. I'll probably cut to one of his videos. But he decided that he was going to take a road trip from LA into Mexico. A road trip, just public transportation, either a taxi or a bus or something. And he vlogged the entire way, and that was so fascinating to me because I love traveling, I love seeing new places, experiencing new things. And he was mixing that love with his love of video making and filmmaking, and he found an audience on YouTube. So that's when I decided that I would launch my own vlog. And I was gonna go, and I was gonna take these amazing trips and vlog the whole way, and just create these amazing travel videos that everybody was gonna fall in love with. And so yeah, I started Barefoot Ant-Man, which eventually became Barefoot Vlog, because everybody was having a hard time with Ant-Man. That was before the Ant-Man movies came out, so I was kind of like, Ant-Man wasn't really a thing. People didn't know how to spell that, so I had to change it to Barefoot Vlog, which is still on YouTube. You guys can look it up. It's Barefoot Vlog. And the first video that kind of launched that channel was a video that me and my brother, he decided to kind of reset his life, just hit a reset button, and he decided that he was going to move from Florida to Washington to kind of start a new life, just let go of the past, start fresh, start new in a new place. And he invited me to go. He invited me to go on the road trip, and I thought, what better way to start a travel vlogging channel than a cross country, road trip vlog. And that's what I did. We actually took everything that he owned at the time, which was mostly just clothing, and his dog, and we threw everything into a van, and we just hit the road. And we tried to stop at every state that we drove through. We tried to find at least one thing that was very touristy or very grandiose, or something that would look good on video, obviously. So we stopped at the plains, the Great Plains of Texas. We stopped at the Hoover Dam. We stopped in the Grand Canyon. That was just amazing. That episode is really good. We stopped in Vegas. We stopped in LA. We had a lot of great stops on that trip, and it ended up being about a six video series. And I was taking all these trips, and I was having a great time. After that one, I actually flew back to Florida. Then about a month or two after that, I took another trip, and then I decided to vlog that as well. But what started to happen is that I was spending more money traveling than I was making on YouTube, and my videos really weren't doing very well. But what did end up happening is that it taught me to edit videos fast. It taught me to, it taught me about a deadline. It taught me about YouTube. I learned the YouTube interface very well. It was a huge learning experience for me, and I saw it as that. I saw it as a huge learning experience. And once I decided to stop doing that, I knew that I had something that I didn't have before, and that was my video editing skill set had improved significantly. And throughout all those trips, I spent a little bit of money on equipment because I had a full-time job at the time. So I was starting to buy my equipment slowly. I got a camera, I got a DSLR because I wanted my vlogs to look better. So I invested in the DSLR. So then I got a better microphone, and it was just little by little. I started to get just for vlogging. But then I kind of sat back and just looked at my YouTube channel, and I didn't see it as something that was sustainable because, again, I was spending more money with the traveling than I was making at the time. And that to me told me that it's just too much effort. It's way too much effort for the level of for the level that I needed to be to make enough money to sustain that. So I kind of just stepped back and just kind of reassessed my life. Honestly, I went through a lot of thinking, a lot of and what ended up happening is that I kind of looked around and I saw all of this video equipment that I had purchased over time, and it just kind of clicked one day, and I was like, I'm gonna make movies. I'm gonna make movies. It was kind of like a 360 moment, like something that you had thought when you were little, and now you're a full grown adult. You have gone through this journey, and now you're just going to scrap everything that you've worked for to pursue this video career. Because for me, it was clear. It was very clear. It was a point in my life where it was very clear to me what I needed to do. And quitting my job was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make, because I was working at a good company. I was making good money. And I was doing work and that used the degree that I got. So it's not like I was wasting my life. I had done it. I had reached what everyone thought was it. I had the job, I had the kids, I had the wife, I had everything. And it just wasn't something that I saw myself being happy doing the rest of my life. And that's when, just looking back and seeing all this equipment and just saying, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start a video business. And even if I'm not able to tell my own stories, which now I'm starting to kind of shoot some short films and things, and I'm getting more into the creative part. But even in the beginning, when I wasn't telling my own stories, I was telling other people's stories. Like I felt at home. I felt like that's what I was meant to do. Is that I would like to capture moments and then tell stories about those moments in a way that people can empathize and people can be transported into a different world or escape even for an hour or two. I want to be part of that. And that to me was enough to quit my job, to just say, you know what? And everything kind of happened all at once. It was kind of like a snowball effect, because as soon as I decided that, I had the gear, I was even doing it part-time. I was doing it because I had the full-time job. I was only able to do it in the afternoons or in the evenings or, on the weekends, obviously. Sometimes I'd even take a day off because I had a client that needed me. And then it just got to the point where it was just, that was unsustainable, because I was spending so much time doing this thing for this company that now my art was suffering. Like I wasn't. Yep. So, as uncomfortable as that made me, I knew that I had to do it, and there was no better time. There was no better time to do it than then. And I kept working my full-time job to kind of support that, and I kept, slowly getting lights and better microphones, and, I started upgrading my cameras a little bit, and just kind of setting myself up to take the jump. And then that's when COVID hit. So in the beginning of 2020, around March, COVID just kind of went rampant in the United States. And, as a knee-jerk reaction, everybody shut down. Everybody, it was mandatory quarantine, and just there was a huge shift happening, and I could feel it. There was a huge shift, not only in my life, but in everyone else's lives. But I kept holding on to the job, and then when COVID hit, obviously I was working at a medical laboratory, which was one of the biggest companies doing COVID tests at the time too. So the COVID, some of the COVID samples were coming to the laboratory that I was working at. I was not comfortable working there. I was not comfortable, with the COVID samples just running through the lab, just a couple feet away from my computer. And, I kind of spoke out about that. And in the beginning, it was kind of played down a little bit. It was like, yeah, you're freaking out. But, to me, it felt like it was a lot bigger deal than what had come before. Just, I don't know. I had this feeling that this was not SARS. This was not, something a lot more mild. It just felt really big to me. It felt like paradigm shifting. And, I spoke out. I said, I don't feel comfortable working here. I would like to work from home. And, originally I was made to be an outcast because I was the only one working from home. And, I had kids at home. I had an elderly grandmother living with my mom at the time, and I visit them very often. So for me, that was a deal breaker. Like I had to work from home. And at first I was made the outcast of the department because, everybody else kept working from the office. Yeah, they were taking their precautions. They were wearing masks and all that, but it was not mandatory to work from home. So nobody did. I was the only one. And I remember, in the beginning I felt bad because, it felt like I was abandoning my team, but at the same time it was self-preservation. I believe, I was preserving me and mine. So when they made work from home mandatory just a few weeks after that, I think it was about 2 to 3 weeks after that, I was working from home. I was the only one in the whole department working from home. And, then it was mandatory. Then everybody had to work from home. So everybody was trying to scrounge and find laptops. And I was just sitting at home, just kind of chilling, and in the beginning, actually, surprisingly, it was a very, very slow time for IT work because, we're all working from home. We don't have physical access to these computers anymore. So we can't really walk over to a printer and unjam it, or, I can't really go to a computer and press the power button. So all the stuff that we were allowed to do was all remote work. So there was not a lot of work coming in. So I remember being really bored. I was just glued to the TV, which was probably a bad thing. It's very toxic if you watch the news nonstop, 24/7. It is very toxic, and it creates stress, it creates anxiety, and it did for me. But anyway, I digress. Because of the fact that I was working from home and there was not a lot of work to do, I was spending a lot of time with the kids, and that was very important to me. That's always been important to me. But we were so cramped together. We were always spending time with each other. I'm sure people out there can relate. During the lockdown, everybody's just kind of crammed together. Everybody's getting on each other's nerves. So we all just kind of spend a little bit more time in our rooms. So I decided that I was going to start hitting this business really hard. Like I was dead set that every minute that I was not spending at my full-time job, I would be spending on this company, on building and creating a website and creating logos and business cards and, just getting the business off the ground. It was the first project that I ever charged over $1,000 for. So that was a big deal. And again, when I finished editing it and, I sent it to the client, they were super happy with it. They paid their last invoice, and that to me was the deciding factor that I could pursue this, that this is doable for me. And now I had a strong enough portfolio that I could do it. People were actually starting to come to me now, that people were starting to come in the door a little bit more. Because they had seen my work, and that as soon as I finished editing that one project, that I immediately just opened up an email client and typed up that email to my boss, just saying thank you for the opportunity that you have given me for the last 13 years, and I think this is going to do it for me. And I gave my 2 weeks notice, and I've been working on some of the coolest projects that I hadn't even fathomed. I meet the coolest people. I work on the most creative projects. Music videos, commercials. It's all fun to me because you're telling someone's story, and in a way that they can't. They have it in their minds, but they don't have the skill set that I do. So that's why they seek me out. All that just to say, find that one thing that you're willing to do for free, and then just perfect it so much that people are going to be, seeking you out and, paying you what you're worth, that you, as much work and effort that you put into this, that's how much you're going to get out of it. And, I'm just getting started. This is just the beginning of my journey. And, hopefully I've been able to inspire you to find that one thing and go on your journey. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Thank you so much for indulging me with my journey. I hopefully I was able to inspire you to go after your journey, the journey that you're meant to take, the journey that's going to make you the person that you're meant to be. So with that being said, if you're currently on your journey and you want to be featured on this podcast, you want to be sitting here with me and telling your story, I'd love to hear it. If you want to reach out, the email is info@blueboxdigital.com. Just shoot us an email saying, hey, I just want to be on your podcast. This is what I do, and I love it. Even if you're not able to physically be here and sitting down with me in this podcast studio, we'll just do a Zoom call and we'll tell your story. So feel free to reach out on Instagram and Facebook. I am at BlueBoxDigital1 with the number 1 at the end. On TikTok, I actually started releasing some of the BlueBox shorts already, and they're doing really well. So if you want to head over there and look at my animated series that I started over there, I'm at BlueBox Digital. Also on TikTok, I am at BlueBox Podcast, and there you're going to see just 1-minute clips of these podcasts. I know some people don't have the full hour or whatever to kind of follow along every single episode, but if you head over to that TikTok account, BlueBox Podcast, I'm going to go ahead and post 1-minute clips on there of some of the highlights of this podcast. If you want to check us out on YouTube, head over to youtube.blueboxdigital.com. That'll take you to our YouTube channel. If you want to check out my portfolio, some of the coolest videos and projects that I've been a part of are on there. If you want to head over to blueboxdigital.com, everything on there is done by me. I do outsource some of the voiceovers and some of that stuff, but 99% of the stuff on there is mine. And with that, I think that's going to do it for this one. I know I've been rambling, and thanks again for indulging me tonight with my journey. And hopefully your journey will make it onto this podcast soon. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.